Okay, so a bit of a shocking news story breaks here very early on Monday afternoon as Frank Ragnow, the three-time second-team All-Pro center with the Detroit Lions, has decided to retire at just 29 years old. And this is surprising for a couple of reasons. I also think this really just changes the complexity of the Lions and where we're at with them. So we'll see how well things can go in this situation. Certainly a surprise, but yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about first Frank Ragnow himself, his decision to retire, what happened here. Interestingly enough, it's not like he's missed like several years of football and that's why he's retired. In fact, he only missed one game last year. He missed week 4 and essentially just played the whole season with a pec injury. So it seems like he wanted to play next year. It doesn't seem like he was just like, this just isn't happening, which kind of explains the timing of it all, which we'll get into a little bit later. But, he says, I tried to convince myself that I'm feeling good, but I'm not, and it's time to prioritize my health and my family's future, which you kind of just have to say, yeah, you do have to put your health first. I understand why you're doing that, right? Even if you're a diehard Lions fan, it's hard to get mad at someone for ultimately saying, I've had injuries. I can't risk not being able to lift my arms over my head when I'm 10 years older and live the rest of my life that way. Like, you have to prioritize that stuff. So totally understand why he does it. Yes, the timing does suck if you're a Lions fan because it's after most of the free agents have been signed and it's after the draft, so you can't really get the replacement there. But again, it seemed like he was planning on playing, and this is a huge decision he has to make. Sometimes you have to focus on yourself and figure out, go on your own timeline. I don't know how much the Lions knew about this being potentially what happened, but ultimately that is what happened, and it sucks for a couple of reasons for the Lions. A, what I just said, hard to replace him. B, he was a really good player, so even if you had an offseason, it'd be tough to replace him. And he was on a very reasonable deal, making $14 million this year and then $16 million the following year for a player that, it was really good and worth way more than that. Now, centers don't get as much as tackles and stuff like that, but if he hit the open market, he's getting more than $15 million a year. He just is. He's that quality of player. So yeah, definitely tough for the Detroit Lions for those perspectives. And I think for the team perspective as a whole, it's a question now. What do you do with with this unexpected retirement? Now, the interior, they already had lost a player, so they had to replace that player with Tate Ratledge. The tackles are good. Lions have maybe the best tackle tandem in football. Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell, that's still going to be awesome. But for a team that prides itself on its offensive line, you have Graham Glasgow, who is a bit up and down, but a solid guard, and honestly might go play center because he has played center in the past. So you have one solid player. Tate Ratledge is another guy who, He's a late second round pick. We just saw last year the Chiefs tried with a late second round pick with Sumatea, and he just was unplayable. But sometimes it does work out, right? You just never really know with that stuff until it happens. So we'll see. But yeah, there's that is a question mark. And now you need to have another interior guy. So, Christian Mahogany is the guy who is currently slated to be the next backup, you would assume. He did play in the divisional round against Washington because there was injuries that caused him, not, from Ragnow, but just other injuries caused him to have to come in and play. Interestingly enough, I don't know how much you care about PFF grades, but he was PFF's who's the Lions' highest graded offensive player in that game. He posted a 92.2 grade in that game, slightly above Penei Sewell's grade. Now, that's one game. It might just be the Commanders didn't put good players on him and they weren't able to execute, but that does give you some hope. Granted, this is still, a guy who has played 2 football games in his career. He was a 6th round pick from just last year, so that's not something you feel too confident about going into a full season. And if Ratledge struggles and Mahogany struggles and Glasgow's Glasgow, this is now a bit of a weakness in a situation where the Lions, again, have prided themselves, no pun intended, on their offensive line. That's where their strength has been. So yeah, It's a blow. It's a blow to this Lions team, and especially when you've already lost both your coordinators, you lose Ben Johnson. We're gonna see. I think we're gonna see. I think partially we're gonna learn more about Jared Goff this year, right? Because he's probably gonna not be in as good of a situation as he's been the past couple of years. And can he show that he isn't just a game manager and that he can, navigate a tough spot like this? It might not be that tough. Again, the Lions, part of why they've had good offensive lines is they've developed offensive linemen well, so a couple of young players, they can try and develop them. And the offseason is not over either. You could still look elsewhere. You could still sign another veteran. You could still make a trade for somebody, although again, it feels like the people that, the players that were going to be traded have been traded. The players that were going to be signed have been signed. Every now and then there is still a solid player on the market. We'll see what they do there. But yeah, it's an unfortunate situation all around. First off, it's just unfortunate that, Frank Ragnow can't continue to play. He was a really fun player to watch, a really good player, and I think he's probably firmly in the Hall of Very Good at this point. I think he maybe would have had a chance at the Hall of Fame had he been able to, play another 6 years or so, but ultimately it is what it is. I still think that, he had a great career for the Detroit Lions, and at least he was able to see some of the success that they've had after, he got drafted to a not so good Lions team, let's just say that. But, I think there's that, and I still think that the Lions aren't screwed, right? I mean, again, you still have probably the best tackle tandem in football, or at least up there. Like, if there's a better one, like, I don't know, Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata are very good. Tampa Bay has a very good like, there's a couple, right? But this is, if it's not one, it's very close to one. And you just, and again, you do have Glasgow, who you trust to be solid. If you can just get one of those young guys to step up, you can maybe hide your weaker one a little bit more. But it's just interesting where in the Dan Campbell era, it's always been, we're going to punch you in the mouth. To do that, you kind of need a good offensive line, which they might not necessarily have. And again, you look at the roster, and it's Jared Goff, who I think that, we all have different opinions on exactly how good he is, but I think we all agree he's a good quarterback. You have some really good weapons, although I don't think you look at this as it being Cincinnati's receiving core, right? And then you have an offensive line that usually was the strength, and that was their focal point. That might not be that anymore. So essentially, just everyone's going to have to step it up. And also, you usually had, an all-world play caller who you don't have anymore. It feels like a bit of a blow where you're losing part of the nucleus of your team. I'm not going to say the Lions are screwed, but they're going to have to really hope these young players step it up if they want to. Again, their offense is going to be good next year, but if they want it to be awesome next year like it was last year, right? Because we know it's going to be solid. The question is just how good is it going to be? Last year, it felt like unstoppable at times, and it might need to be unstoppable if you're going to win a Super Bowl. And for it to do that, you're going to need some of the young offensive linemen to step up. At least that's how I see it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.